So, hi, and welcome to the Seraphine podcast. I am Seraphine Arocha, and today we are with Josue Montes, who is the Dapper Latino. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I have to say, just to set up this podcast, I'm super excited about it. This man is probably one of the staples of Kansas City for when I go out. I want to know where he goes to eat, where he goes to drink, where he goes to shop. And he is a man who celebrates just the opportunity to exist. And I love that. There's too many people who are in a place where they feel like things are too much or they're not enough. And what I like is that Josh celebrates life in a way that is in abundance without smashing your face into it. He's reminding you like, hey, life is happening right in front of you. Join in and have some fun. So I love
Seraphine, that was the best intro.
I love it.
See, thank you.
Thank
you.
I mean every word of it, because I am. I literally, your actual Instagram is one of the ones where I'll look at Johnny, my husband, and I'm like, where do you want to go? And he's always like, I don't know, where do you want to go? And I'm like, let's go on Josh's page. And then I'm like, all right, let's go here, here, and here. So talk to me as we begin this conversation. Talk to me about how you even got set up in, and I say influencer with the cringe in me because I feel like you have a lot of impact on people, but how did you kind of get into the influencer game?
You know, it's funny because, like you said, being an influencer, I'm much like you. I dislike the word, but I just embrace it. I mean, it is what it is. That was never on my radar. 5 years ago was when I was approaching 40, and I was telling my partner, it's like, okay, I'm about to be 40 years old. Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I mean, what?
Oh, you can say what the fuck. You can say fuck-a-doodle-doo. Yeah.
I didn't know. I was like,
oops. Yeah.
You'll edit it, right?
Oh, no. Kidding. Me and Joe Rogan, I'm like, give me some Joe Rogan love, because he's fuck every other word. So
for me, I'm like, okay, WTF? Like, I feel unaccomplished. I don't feel like I've done anything with my life. Even though I was in a great relationship, I still am. I mean, with my partner, and it was just, there was just something in me. And I think genetically, even as men, we're kind of programmed genetically to lead and to, provide.
Yeah.
And so at the time, it was just my partner. Yeah. And so he said, and I've been doing interior design for a long time. That's actually always has been my passion as a kid, even as a child, as an interior designer. Like my happy spot, kids would go like, let's go to a toy store. My happy spot store was like furniture stores. I mean, as a kid. Cool.
Where did that come from? Is that like from your dad, your mom?
I'd say from my mom probably, or even both, because my mom would, anytime they'd go to the furniture stores or just look at something, they'd always ask me for my opinion. Yeah. Because I was so like, just, so it's like I was a kid in a candy store, but in a furniture store. Yeah. Or in a home goods store. And so when I moved to Kansas City in September of 2008, I believe, my partner, this is our home. We have a condo downtown. He goes, this is your home now. So like, let's just, this is like awesome. Do with it as you please. We can sell everything. So I literally sold all his shit. We were literally sleeping in sorry, I shouldn't say shit, but all his stuff. Yeah. And we were literally sleeping on a blowout mattress for like a month because we were slowly kind of redoing the condo. And from there, we started meeting our neighbors in the condo building. And it's funny because Kyle had lived in that condo probably about a year because it was brand new, moved in about a year prior. He had just gone out of a 20-year relationship.
Wow. Talk about pressure to set up a space, because I do have to say, when you are with someone, because my husband had been in a marriage for 10 years, and the hard part was for me to come in and be like, okay, so I'm the next relationship, and then you're like establishing this like separation, right? Because there are some things that they owned in the previous relationships. With my husband, he was a rare bird where she actually passed away. So when he got rid of things, he got rid of a lot of things. But there was still this sense of like, I wanted to create a home, because he was not, he'd be the guy who'd be happy with whatever. But at the end of the day, I'd waited so long and I wanted a proper home, but it's so much pressure. Like, how did you go into this space? Like, what did you know as it, like, your interior design brain? If you go into a room, what's the first thing you start with?
I just look at paint colors to his aesthetics. I just started looking at the ceiling.
Yeah.
But even with his condo, like I just knew it was all browns. And like you said, a lot of that stuff was his and his previous partner's stuff. So they split stuff.
Yeah.
So sold it all, and then our neighbors started coming over for cocktails, and then they would see what was going on. I was like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing. Who's doing this? I was like, oh, I am. So at one point, the neighbors we became friends. Kyle had already lived in this building for a year.
Yeah.
My boo-boo, as I call him, my boo-boo. He's not a social guy.
No.
So people thought he moved with me from Texas when he'd been living there a year. So that says a lot about him.
I love that.
So we started redoing the condo, and then, friends, can you help us do ours? I was like, absolutely. I was like, and what do you charge? At the time, I was such an idiot thinking like, oh, because I didn't go to school for it, I can't charge. I was like, oh, don't worry about it. Just take us to dinner. It'll be a nice fucking dinner, but it won't be so it'll, gosh, I really throw those F-bombs.
I know, right? Isn't it hilarious when you hear your own voice, you're like, oh my God.
I'm hearing myself.
I have a potty mouth.
So, and it just kind of, I've done so many places unpaid, but it was experience for me too. Yeah. So but again, going back 5 years is when I realized I was like, I need to do something. He goes, do the interior design. You're great at it. You have an eye for it. Do it. I was like, but I didn't go to school. But it's like, it doesn't matter. People will pay for what you do. I was like, okay. So that's how I started. That was probably what, 2000. So I started One Dapper Latino LLC September 24th of 16. So I'm coming up on my 4th year anniversary.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
The year before, I started getting all my ducks in a row. So I got my LLC. I started looking for a web designer. I got my attorney. I got my CPA. So I started getting all my ducks in a row. As my partner, as a businessman, he's kind of directed me on what to do.
Yeah.
And so finally, I found, after 3 or 4 web designers, I found the perfect one. And he helped me get it started, and he said, okay, Josh, and at the time, I had a 10-year-old flip phone. This is my second smartphone ever. That's hilarious. So he said, you do know if you're serious about, a website, you have to get rid of that phone. I was like, why?
It works.
Everything. It works. Yeah. It texts. I was like, text me a picture. Text me a picture. Of course, it's all pixelated and shit. And I was like, if you're really serious, I was like, no, I don't want a smartphone. I don't want a Facebook. I don't want Instagram. I don't want any of that. He goes, you have to have that stuff. I was like, nowadays you have to have that. I was like, so I fought it for a couple of months, and then I was like, okay. He twisted my arm.
Yeah.
And so that's how we started the Instagram. So we started debating about what should your handle be? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. This is your idea.
Yeah.
And his name is Mike Fitton. Hey, Mike, if you see this, if you hear this.
I love it.
So anyways,
he,
so just think, let's brainstorm. And so I was like, all right. I was like, well, so you're Latino? I was like, yeah. I was like, I do get a lot when I'm at events. Oh, you look so dapper. So I was like, you always look so dapper. I was like, so I mean, on a regular, without sounding
inflated. But
yes, I mean, I do put some, thought into what I'm doing, but like quickly. I don't like. I'm not one of those people who's like goes through 10 different outfits. But like I kind of process quickly.
Well, your aesthetic. I mean, if you're an interior designer, I would think with fashion, you're quite particular.
Yeah. So and then he goes, and then this just Dapper Latino. He goes, why don't we just throw in the number 1? I was like, sure.
All right.
But I didn't mean it to be like the number 1 because I don't mean it, but it's just I'm one Dapper Latino. Like that's one Dapper Latino. Like when you or one.
I love that though because
one Dapper guy.
We have a mutual friend, Noelle Manica, and I remember that we had gone out to lunch and I wanted Noelle's advice. So if you look up Noelle Manica now, she's beautiful. She is a model, a mother, a business owner. She is David Manica's wife, and they own 3 of the most amazing bars here in Kansas City. And every time I see her, I was always like, oh, girl crush, love her. But anyway, I remember she sat me down. She was like, you really should start branding yourself. And she goes, it's great that you have your first and last name on your Instagram, but why aren't you just the real Seraphine? She's like, it's not like you're saying anything else but like you're calling yourself. And she's like, try that. And I remember just being like, but I am real. And she goes, well, you know what I'm saying. She's like, it just, and it elevates the name. So, and it's crazy because it sticks in everybody's head.
Yeah.
It really does. And I was talking to you earlier about your name and about how literally my husband forever would call you Dapper Don. He'd be like, Dapper Don, like Don Juan. And it was always this kind of jubilant, like he'd put a smile on his face because he'd be like, Dapper Don's here, and then I'd laugh and I'd be like, oh my gosh, where's he at? And then I remember the first time that we ever like got the courage to kind of like, converse with you, because it was this sense of, because you have such a beautiful laid out Instagram, because the way you do dress and the way that you are very like, when I see you, you're intentional with the people you're out with. You're not out to just like, hi everyone, like you're with your people. So it's not that you're being standoffish, but you're definitely paying attention to the people that you're with. So I remember when we came up, you were so warm, you were so sweet, and then your name went blank in my head. And all I could think of was Dapper Don. And I was like, fuck. I go, honey, this is, and then I did that like pause, and I remember you just went right in and you filled it in.
I do that because I'm to the point where I can kind of see where it's going. I was like, this person won't know my name. Yeah. Because it's always Dapper. So it's like, oh, I'm Josh. He goes, but as you guys, she probably knows me as Dapper Latino. It's like, yes, I'm, and it's fine because nowadays, we all know people through their handles. Like we don't know people's first names. Like it's always like, hey, there's Giovanna, but it's Giovanna.
Yeah, totally.
But like Noelle was Noelle, but like there's so many people that just have Instagram handles. That's how we know people about
Well, and I wish people were less sensitive. Like I feel right now we're so, on one hand, I'm glad that our antennas are open. Like for instance, like I just had Landon Patterson, who is transgender. And we were talking a lot about titles, about names, and about, well, what do you refer to yourself as? And I completely understand there is such a place for it right now, and we do need it. But there's also a sensitivity chip where I'm like, whoa, people, like, let's calm down. Like for instance, if I were going to call you Dapper Latino, and if someone was like, well, don't you know his name? And I mean, do you really think he wants to be called Dapper Latino? You see people's pinging sensitivity. Yeah. And on one hand, I want to keep that, sensitivity up for people who are making moves or like big changes. I mean, now Landon, she is now a female. She got the paperwork. She was so proud. She announced it here. So I mean, to me, that deserves attention. But also, I think our names, we're getting less and less about, like even when I do these interviews, a lot of times I'll ask for like a background or bio, because I think that it's so important to know your guest. And a lot of people just kind of look at an Instagram and they're like, this is it. And I'm like, well, wait a second. So how do you feel about where sometimes you feel like this, because you've got a little bit of privacy in you. Where do you play on the edge of your privacy versus being kind of a public persona?
Good question. Like for me, like I always, even though as social as I am, I like to say I always get these confused. An introvert, somebody who is social or not?
Introvert is internal. Extrovert is, I'm out there. Yeah.
So I am a closeted introvert.
Oh, interesting.
So I do like being out and socially, but like I love my time at home.
Yeah.
So I like the privacy. Like it's just kind of a, and I love it. But there's times like we could be having dinner, and then somebody will come up. She goes, "Hey, so like I just wanted to come. I follow you on Instagram. I think you're fabulous. Blah blah blah." I love that stuff, and it happens. It happens more often than I would thought it would, because I honestly don't find myself that interesting.
Yeah.
So when other people do, it is nice, but I don't let it get to my head sometimes.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, but it is a so the privacy, like, especially if I'm on a date night with Kyle, who we purposely do have a we're out just the two of us, because I need that time to myself to just kind of focus on him, especially if we're both busy during the week. We don't see each other that much.
Yeah.
So privacy is like, for example, I'll use, I don't know, I mean, this is reaching, but like big celebrities. I can kind of imagine what they deal with. Like,
I can't even.
It was like, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
So even on such a small scale, being as some people, and I, again, not sounding pompous, but when people here in Kansas City, you're kind of a local celebrity.
Yeah.
I love that, but it's also sometimes like, I feel like if I'm out, I have to be on.
Yes.
And I don't want to be on all the time. So I kind of just want to, sometimes I just want to stay home. I tell Kyle, let's just stay home, have dinner, order in. Especially during COVID, it was a lot easier.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that time. But then sometimes I do get cabin fever. So I'm like,
totally.
I need to get out. I need to, go have a drink or somewhere.
It's a weird, again, it's always like a balance. And I do think that people make assumptions a lot about quote unquote public people. And Kansas City is what I call like the smallest city, like the smallest big city or whatever there is. So you run into people and they think they know you and they've socialized maybe once or twice with you in an event or, you know, a charity, little get together. And then the next thing you know, like sometimes conversation will take a turn and you're like, woo, I didn't know you knew me that well. Or you think you know me, but like I am so not there.
That's happened, yes.
So, and then on top of it, you are a gay man. So, I mean, I think a lot of people make assumptions about gay relationships. I talk about it all the time. I had Christian and Justin on, both separately and both talking about how if you're in a committed relationship as a gay man, a lot of people are like, oh, but are you really? Like, is there room for, a third party? Or, like my favorite is
well,
that,
the more the merrier.
Well, right.
No,
I love it. But it's crazy. And me and my husband, we don't have children, right? So like, there's always this like, well, why don't you have children? Would you like me to be your baby? I'm like, no. I'm like, what? I'm like, can you buy us a drink for? No, I'm kidding. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I feel
or
like
dinner,
there's
dinner and drink.
Right? Exactly. So have you been in situations where people have made assumptions about who you are? Because I know I had my preconceived notions that I've talked to you about.
Yes, because again, it goes back to me being Latino, not just because I'm Latino, but also I am very friendly. I am flirty to an extent, but not in a aggressive way.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'm handsy, and so I'm not groping. I'm handsy. Like there's a difference. Yes, it's totally. A hug. It's a hug or a kiss or just very like. And when I'm talking to somebody, I look at their face. I look at their mouth. I look at their eyes.
Totally.
Because that's just, I'm not looking at your mouth because I'm thinking of dirty things.
Yeah, no.
But I'm just like, I'm looking at you because that's how I communicate.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm getting hard of hearing, so I'm like reading lips.
Reading lips. So I have to, and so sometimes people think I'm flirty.
Yeah.
Or somebody comes by and is like, hey, how's it going? But that's, and all of a sudden like, oh, so like, well, you kind of like gave me a, what's what I'm looking for? You gave me a clue or a.
You're sending me. God, what is that? Sending me. What is the word when you're sending someone? What?
Signals.
Oh,
yes,
mixed signals.
You're sending me signals.
Mixed signals.
Like, I don't know what signals you're talking about, but like, I'm sorry if I'm sending you the wrong signals, but like I am perfect. I'm happily married.
My problem is I'm a people watcher.
Yeah.
So the thing that my husband gets nuts about is I will be sipping on a drink. I'll be doing like one of these things, like the very Real Housewives, like flashback, like that's an awkward thing. And I'll be like looking. And then all of a sudden I'll be like transfixed on someone. And then he's like, who are you looking at? And usually my eye gaze, I'll be honest with you, most of the time I'm looking at women. I mean, to be truthful, because I'm always like, oh, she's fashionable, or oh, girl. In my brain, it's usually women. Every once in a while,
Me too, honestly.
Yeah, right.
It's like wherever you do.
And when I do look at men, I'm always like, it's really not. It's always very innocent. But my husband will literally follow my track line, and he'll like find like some tall, gorgeous black man, and he's like, "Are you looking at him?" And I'm like, "No, I was actually looking at my." So it's hilarious. But I do get transfixed with people watching a lot, and especially if I'm in surroundings where, like for instance, if you're in a beautiful surrounding like the Monarch Bar, or I can't wait to see Mercury Room. By the way, it was so hilarious because I mean I know that.
Have you been to Verdigris?
I have, and I love their cocktails. Too, My God. I mean, plug. The Manicas know how to do bars here. They really do. And And the thing is that what I like about those atmospheres is it makes you aware. You are present because you're around beautiful things. You're sipping on a delicious drink, and you're heightened. All of your senses are heightened. Who the hell wants to be in like a shitball bar, with a beer and your nachos, and then you're like feeling fat and disgusting, and you're like, okay. I mean, I guess if you're watching a football game, but you want
that ambiance, you want the whole package.
Totally.
It's okay to have those packages, on a moderate level. I mean, if having that on a daily basis could be a bit much. I'm all about moderation.
No, I am too. And I mean, come on, I'm in my sweatshirt today, but I try to make it a little bit on the
almost wore one too. I should have.
Yeah, right? It's so funny how you have your different days. So talk to me about fashion, because what I do love about your fashion, the other night me and my husband were out at Eddie V's, and I literally, like a tractor beam, my staring eyes went to you. I mean, he had on, so Dapper is known for his hats, and he's also known for, what I love is this homage always to just a hint of the feminine. And you know who does it amazing is Alessandro from Gucci. He does a lot of like saying, hey, play with the feminine, the masculine. And I love that, because I love to wear men's suiting. So every time I see you, I'm always like, wow. And you wore this beautiful scarf.
Yes.
I loved that.
Here's another plug. This would be to Jennifer Janesco. Yes, that scarf. I honestly do. I'd say like 35-40% of my closet is women's.
Yeah.
I do like you said it beautifully, that I do like that hint of femininity in my appearance.
Yeah.
Because I feel masculine. People think just because you're gay, like you're just, and there are. I mean, there's so many varieties of being gay. There's butch, there's twinks, there's like feminines, there's so many. And I say I fall right in the middle. Like I'm not overly masculine, overly butch, but I'm not.
You're not growing fairy wings.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
not prancing around.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I mean, if I have cocktails I've had, then I probably would be. But I mean, so yes, that scarf was, I saw it on her Instagram. I was like, I gotta have that scarf. And one of the reasons I love the scarf, if I was to
open it up,
it's this beautiful, it's from the neck down. It's a beautiful woman in a bustier, in her lingerie and her beautiful long legs.
I love that.
So that's what, even if I'm wearing it, you don't really see it, but I would purposely put the crotch area on my shoulder.
I love it.
So if you're paying attention, you can see it.
I love it.
But I loved, and it's cashmere, so it had that beautiful feel to it. And I was wearing just simple black t-shirt and jeans. And the scarf for me was the center, was the focal. Yeah. It's like an interior design. There's always one piece in a certain room that I want to be the focal point.
Yeah.
And that's how I am also with my fashion as well. Like, I don't want to be like all multiple, even though I like patterns and layers, as long as they're even like in the same color.
Yeah.
But I don't like to do all just a mix of everything.
Yeah.
I like, there's got to be something that really your eye gravitates towards. So I love, it's usually my hat or like you said, the scarf that one day.
Your details are so specific and so beautifully thought out, and you never feel like you're trying too hard. Like every time I look at your fashion, I would like to talk to you a little bit about accessories, because when you pick accessories, are there colors you're drawn to? Is there certain brands that you're like down to? Because you have a partnership with Tibble. So, I mean, the beauty is, like, I see some really beautiful jewelry pieces, but then you play with a lot of unique nods to different cultures. I mean, even today, I love that you've got the turquoise on, and it's got, you play with a lot of different aesthetics. So what are some things that, like, instantly you're drawn to accessory wise, aside from, I know, the hats?
For me, it's almost both for interior design and in fashion. God, I'm all over the place with that stuff, as long as it's all together. But as far as in jewelry, I like white gold, platinum, silver. I'm not a big gold, which I mean,
I am. I'm like a rapper.
You love your gold, but because I grew up with. I mean, I was like in high school and junior high. I was that kid, and a lot of my friends, because of my dad, I had the rope gold necklaces. Like I had like 10 of them on.
Like I'm Persian.
With the big old medallions. Yeah. So that was me.
Yeah.
The gold nugget bracelets with that was so I had so much gold. I still love gold.
Yeah.
But like I kind of it depends on what I'm wearing too. And then
totally.
But it's just Turquoise, I do enjoy turquoise quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know where that comes from, but I just love the stone because it's still elegant but understated.
Yeah.
So I love understatements.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times that I do like to be like, "Hey, look at me,
Bling bling." Yeah.
Yes,
right?
but usually that's not me. I kind of like try to scale it down a bit.
Do you have a vintage piece or something that's been given to you from a family member that you're like, hell yes, every time I wear it?
I'd say the Cartier Pantera pin that I
Yeah.
have. Well, that was my dad's actually. So
Very cool.
when people see me wearing them, people who know what it is, they're like thinking, "Holy shit! Like that's shitloads of money." But
Yeah.
like, they think I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
my dad. So
Yeah.
he passed away. So I mean, I got a lot of his stuff, but that's probably one of my most meaningful.
Yeah.
Because it was his, and but yeah.
Did he wear it often?
No.
Interesting. Isn't that so? It's so cultural. Like it's your nice thing.
He didn't hardly ever wear it because he thought it was too. My dad was, he's Mexican, so very
Yeah.
Latino, very macho, and I can go ahead and say this because
Yeah.
he's no longer with us, anyways. But my dad was, in the drug business.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so he was the drug business.
Yeah.
So that was they didn't have any money, so they gave him this.
I gotcha.
So it was
All
one
right.
of those things. So he really didn't want,
Yeah.
I mean, he wore it, like, I think once, and it was like, he thought it was
Yeah.
too feminine. So he gave it
Interesting.
to my mom, and my mom didn't want it. So I was like, well, fuck, I'll take
Well,
it.
little did we know
Yeah.
that would be a staple because
Exactly.
it's a beautiful piece. That's pretty cool to know the story behind it, though.
Yeah. So he was very, and actually, not off subject, but like, that's where I think I get my social, like, I'm very, like, warm from my dad. My dad was always very social, and like, he would give the shirt off his back to anybody,
Yeah.
but also, like, don't fuck with them.
Yeah, no
So,
kidding,
like,
right?
Yeah, so I mean,
Isn't it
both
interesting the
ways.
skills you have to have for certain ways of life? Like I can't imagine who would be like the introvert drug dealer.
Right.
Like, you've got to have an extrovert out there. You've got to be, but you also have to have some sense of control because I mean, you've got all this stuff that could mess with your brain. I'm always curious because again, I look at even doctors in like who are out and about, and then you see them and they're like, wow, they are crushing it and partying. I'm like, they're going to open up my heart or my chest tomorrow. I'm like, cardiologist, calm down. But it's so interesting to see how people kind of go about their daily life. So when you talk about kind of being a closeted introvert, when does the extrovert come out? Like when do you really feel that extrovert need of being around socially?
It could be a commercial on TV that they're watching. We're at home watching TV, and all of a sudden there's a cocktail or something, a bar.
Yeah.
It's like, let's go out. Like, it's just, especially spring and summer.
Yeah.
Winter, everybody hunkers down during the winter. So right after winter, like, I'm ready to get out. I'm
Yeah.
ready to be an extrovert and really 100%.
Yeah.
So, even because this past winter, of course, that's when COVID came in around
Yeah.
January. So my coming out of winter was almost like sabotaged, was hijacked
Yeah.
by COVID. So as we all did, we all had to kind of figure out, okay, we can't really be out partying like we used to.
Yeah.
Events were canceled and all that. But to answer your question, I guess
Well, it's interesting because I feel like, and I'm gonna pivot here. So
the word of 2020.
right, we're pivoting. I'm gonna take this
Quarantine,
conversation,
pivots,
right?
new normal.
No,
Yes.
it feels so. I don't know. And again, health and wellness. Like
Yeah.
let's just get all the words out there right here. hashtag pivot. So as I pivot, so you had a pretty big scare with the Bell's palsy.
Yes.
And I'd like you to kind of speak to how it happened and then what changed in you. Because again, being this person who probably had to become an introvert real quickly to
Yes.
take care of you.
Yeah.
And finding now that balance of the extroversion, the introversion, and the health of you. So take me down when it happened, how it happened, and what you've been doing to heal.
So that happened in November.
Yeah.
That was in November. I was at another plug here, Molly Balloon's fashion show. Yeah. Molly is she was one of those, on a side note, Molly was one of those people who kind of originally gave me a little bit of a boost on what I was becoming as far as on social media, because we were both at an event at the gown gallery, and I was leaving, and there's that little courtyard.
Yeah.
So she was sitting there, and she literally jumps out right in front of me, stops me, and she goes, "Who the fuck are you?" With her finger up and down. And I was like, "Oh," I mean, she's like, "You are just fabulous." I was like, "Oh, well, thank you. I'm Josh," or Josue Montes and whatever.
Yeah.
She goes, "But I don't know on Instagram. Who are you?" I was like, "Oh, one Dapper Latino." She goes, "Of course you are."
Yeah.
And that's how. And so for me, it's like you look just like you're. And she looked at my feed, and I was like, "You're just." So it kind of gave me a little bit of a directness of who I was becoming.
Yeah.
Even though I knew I was. Anyways, on the side, that's a little side note. So I was one of 3 sponsors of her event. Shaman, CBD Shaman was her big one. Myself, and there was somebody else I can't remember. And we have a very good friendship. She's titled me her fairy gay father, which is great. I love that.
That's great.
So we had I sponsored it. She gave me 4 to 6 seats right in the middle. Like those are your seats for Dapper only, blah blah blah. I'm giving you the full story. Is that cool? So
no, I'm so interested.
So when you buy tickets to her show, it is if you get VIP tickets, you just first come first serve though. It's first front row. So if you get there before me and you get front row, but even though you have VIP, you can sit there.
Okay.
So those 4, I think it was 4 to 6. I think it was 6 seats that were reserved by me, which weren't really. You couldn't really tell unless you really focused.
Yeah.
So this gentleman. And again, he's going to remain nameless because I think at some point everybody knows where it was.
Yeah.
Got there before I did, and he laid his coat down, and he thought those were his seats. And then when I came in, I was getting, to go get seated by Molly's mom and a friend of hers, and we were about to get seated, and this gentleman comes up running and says, "Oh, those are my seats." And then she was told, "Unless you're with one Dapper Latino, those are not your seats."
Yeah.
It's like, but I got my coat there already. You marked it. I get it, but those were already reserved, and they should have maybe, in hindsight, put a little bit more reserved on it. But and so I didn't think much of it, and so I was enjoying the evening. I was drinking. That was one of the times I'm not a big drinker.
Yeah.
Saturday I overserved myself. Joanna, again, you should have hit me up.
I love it.
And then that was one of the first nights that I really was just letting loose.
Yeah.
Enjoying myself. I drank heavily and went out. And all of a sudden I started getting around 2:00 in the morning. My phone's just like blowing up on Instagram. I was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Did you hear this person is like slamming you on Instagram?" I was like, "What? Who's slamming me?" And so I realized what it was, and then something about, I think I was called a self-proclaimed self-important influencer, a self-proclaimed self-important influencer. And so people are like, "Who was it?" Asking this, but who was it? And so he was giving my name out. And so then it just
escalated.
That was the only social media feud that I've ever gotten in, and do not want to get in anymore. That was one and done for me.
Did he take the seats? Did he sit in the seats, or were they?
No, he moved.
He moved for you,
Yeah.
but he decided that he was going to make sure that everybody knew
that it was. He said, "Yeah." So coverage of Molly Balloon's fashion show was interrupted by this self-proclaimed, self-important, person, influencer, quote unquote. And
bone to pick.
That is not my. But in hindsight, I was bigger than that.
Yeah.
But also I was drunk. So at that point I was like, "Oh, fuck no." So I'm like getting back and then screenshotting this person's picture and then blasting it back, which was not
trust me.
That was not me. But again, as they say, sometimes when you drink too much, it does happen. And
we're not made out of steel. No. I hate to say it. Just because you put yourself out publicly,
and you have to develop a thick. I've learned that's one thing. I'm a very sensitive person. I am. People wouldn't think that, but I am very sensitive, and my feelings get hurt pretty quickly. But I don't let it show. Especially now. Now I've developed a little bit of a thicker skin, and I don't let it show as much as I used to when I'm hurt about something. So I did. That was like already, I think it was 4 or 5 in the morning when I'm still on my phone. I was like, I got to get some sleep. This is bullshit. So I ended up going to sleep. I woke up at 7 a.m., 2 hours, full day Saturday. Yeah. Went to dinner, girlfriend's birthday dinner at Bob Wasabi.
Yeah.
Eating dinner there, and we're just having a good time. Again, I'm on 2 hours sleep, hungover. I think Thursday was an event too, which I didn't get much sleep either. And then by Saturday night, I'm having dinner, and I kept biting the lower bottom of my right side of my lip as I'm eating. It's like I keep biting it. I was like, why am I biting my?
Yeah.
Keep biting it. So I was like, I had to purposely kind of like hold my lip down so I don't bite it. I just thought I was tired. And then so went home, went to sleep. Oh, baby.
I know. He's like, come on, come here. I know.
And then Sunday morning, I got up to go have coffee with a friend at Starbucks. And we're talking, and literally he's like, asked me, Josh, are you okay? I was like, yeah. Why? He goes, because your right eye has not blinked like in 10 minutes. I was like, what? And so I rushed to the bathroom, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and as I'm looking, my whole right side of my face is drooping. It's starting to fall. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I think I'm having like a stroke.
That's what I would think.
That's the first thing. So the first thing I did was like, hey, I got to go home.
Yeah.
So he's like, can I drive you? I was like, no, I think I'm good. Which is stupid, because if you're having a stroke, you don't want to get behind a car.
No.
So I drive home immediately, and I run upstairs to my partner, and he looks up, he sees me. As soon as he sees me, he jumps out of bed. Like, he throws the sheets, the comforter and the laptop over, and he goes, we got to get you to the emergency room. It's like, so, because I didn't have to say a word. He could just see my face. Yeah. I was like, I got to take a shower first. He goes, fuck the shower.
No, it's called your health.
I know. I was like, wait, but like, nobody wants to go dirty to the shower or to the hospital. Yeah. So went there, and of course St. Luke's, big shout out to St. Luke's. I mean, they had me in there like within 5 minutes. I filled out whatever I did and put me right in through the doctor, and then through the CAT scan or whatever it is. And 10 minutes later, it's like, so good news and bad news. Good news is there's no blockage. There's nothing going on in your brain. Bad news is that probably you have Bell's palsy, because they were having me open my mouth. I couldn't open my mouth all the way, and it was just, so you have Bell's palsy. So
how does Bell's palsy, like?
So the doctor told me, what's so funny, one of the nurses recognized me.
Of course. She's like, wait a second, are you one Dapper Latino?
No, she did. No. She goes, the doctor asked me, so what do you do? She goes, you don't know him?
I love it.
Like, he's one Dapper Latino. And so it's like, oh, well, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And she, but you must be like pretty busy then. I was like, oh, I keep busy, and so it was, well, you need to slow down. Part of Bell's palsy too is just your immune system just kind of shutting down. Wow. So you're going, and if I think about it, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, no sleep. Sundays when it hit, Sunday morning, the whole drama, the whole like just
the stress,
being angry. I mean, I was angry that the whole thing over the Insta feud.
I love it.
I was still kind of livid about all that, and it takes a lot to piss me off, and I was pretty pissed off. And it's just accumulation of things, and it just showed me, it told me that I needed to slow down. I mean, I was in such a high of just keep going, trying to, because I was so I didn't do what I'm doing now for so many years since I moved here. Now that I started kind of gaining a following or making a name for myself, I just want to keep going. Well,
yeah, and I feel like when you've been searching for something, right? And it's like, oh no, I'm enjoying this. I'm good at this. I want to keep going. Yeah. Oh. I think the one thing that's so interesting is when you don't give yourself any grace.
Yes.
It's like you just go because you're like, well, I've waited this long to do this, and now I'm doing it, and I'm loving it, and you're passionate about it. And if I stop, I think that's the other thing is, for me, that sense of becoming not irrelevant, but like you're kind of riding the wave, And I understand that responsibility, especially in my 40s. I think I'd be a little bit more chill about it, but because most of my life I've always been kind of laid back, and now there's this sense of urgency with just this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Of like,
that's the thing. You have that sense of urgency of like, you don't want to. We all have. I believe we all have that need to be felt included or feel relevant or whatever.
Purpose.
Yeah, purpose.
Yeah.
So for me, that's when I realized, like, okay, I need to slow down. Like, I need to focus on me. Like, just and do what the doctor said. You need to slow down. Just focus on get you some R&R. And I did. I went home, got my medication. I think it was prednisone, and then they prescribed Valtrex.
Oh, interesting.
So Valtrex, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't know, well, I did know because I saw the commercials.
Yeah.
Valtrex is usually for herpes.
Yeah, it's for the
So you get and because of the immune system, we all have. As the doctor said, because when she prescribed, I was like, wait, why are you giving me Valtrex?
Yeah.
Then I'm looking at my partner, I was like, why is she giving me Valtrex?
Right. You're like, wait a second.
No, and she said, no, that Valtrex is because we all have the simplex, whatever herpes in our spinal fluid.
Yep.
So
the herpes simplex 1, I think.
Yeah. It's in the spinal fluid. So, and because of like what's happened to you, it just gets released or whatever.
Yeah.
So and that's what causes also, and it helps to have a quicker recovery.
Interesting.
So, and the prednisone to just the swelling, because what it is, Bell's palsy is a nerve in the back of your brain that is swollen.
Wow.
So it swells up to the point where it, like your face can't feel
That's
anything.
so interesting to me because there's been, I just found out 2 weekends ago about my father having a diagnosis of ALS, and it's a heartbreaker, right? And I mean, it's interesting. I've always been very, I've been so curious when it comes to ALS, MS, early onset Alzheimer's, or when people have strokes and like they can't move their body, but their brain is still intact.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw your post, I was absolutely like, again, I had always enjoyed being around you, but that is when I saw this vulnerability in you that I was like, oh my gosh.
He's human.
You're human. And there was really a sense of, what is it? Not humbling, but really calling yourself out about, I took it too far. I let this get to me.
Yeah.
And this is so silly. This is, and now
silly.
my health is so important. And I loved that the vanity part of you, which I know is so fucking hard. I mean, I know it's hard because as I'm aging now and like feeling, I'm like, God damn it. Like, to put myself out there and have photography and do this, it's like there are days where I'm like, I just don't want to be in front of a fucking camera.
Yep.
And then here you are and your face had fallen. And I remember my heart just being like, there's these heart opener moments with people where it's just like, nah, this man is a good man. And the fact that he is.
And you reached out. If you remember, you did. You reached out. It was very sweet. And
And I just was completely.
I remember everybody who reached out, you were one of those people. So when I would see you again, it was just, So
I just looked at you through a pair of different eyes. And I think it was because you didn't have to. You just didn't have to. You didn't need to. And you did. You went and showed like what you were going through with Dr. Abby. You were so informative. And most people who struggle with anything that either physically disables them or the other thing is that if you're at fault in some way to where it's like, you caused the stress, you didn't take care of your body. Yeah. A lot of people don't like to speak to that. They don't like to speak to that. And I can see it with my own father of him talking a lot about, like when he first got the diagnosis, he didn't want to talk about things he wasn't doing for his body. And then now he's really talking about, no, actually, I should have been doing more of this. I should have been doing more of that. And granted, I mean, it's two different spectrums of illness. But I think more people in positions to where people are watching, they do care about where you're eating and where you're shopping. And when you are in the restaurant, these are people who are an active audience. And what changed in you to where you would put yourself out there in that vulnerable context?
Because I as we were discussing earlier, like for me, there's one thing that when I started this whole Instagram, this whole social media thing, which again, as I said earlier, was not even on my radar. The one thing, okay, I'm out there. I might as well just keep it 100%. But I also want to have that approachability factor. Like I don't ever want anybody to think I'm not approachable. And sometimes it's just, I think that's important for people. Like there's times that I need to see somebody. Like you just gotta have that I want to always be putting out great vibes. And being vulnerable, because it is like on a vanity purpose, like you're looking at your face, half your face is dropped. Like you can't even like blink. And the fact that I had to like tape my eyes shut to go to sleep, it was just like, oh my God. Because if you don't, your eye doesn't close. So it'll dry up. So you have to keep it closed to keep it moist.
Yeah.
Moist, that's the word, right?
Not moist.
Well,
Love
some
moist.
people do not like the word moist.
Do you like moist? Don't they have, what is that they call where people like chew on their food and people ASMR? Yeah, where they're like,
yes.
oh, it's so weird. People are so into that. I know. It's so, you know what? Actually, that could be like the next thing you do, because you do the foodie part. Like you could get a mic really close while you're like eating a burrito and being like, because there are people who love that shit. I'm kidding.
That's like people though. That's like sometimes I get weird DMs. It's like, hey, can you send me a picture of your foot?
I know,
like,
you're like, no. Thank you.
That's only for my OnlyFans page. No, I'm kidding. I do not have an OnlyFans page.
But I do. To go back to the vulnerability part of it, do you find now?
I wanted to put it out there, one of the reasons that was so important for me, because my mom had a stroke, so I witnessed what she went through. Years when I was in high school, she had a stroke, and which that's what I thought I was having, because I saw the same. Her face had dropped and all that, but hers was a stroke, which thank God she got out of it after. Unfortunately, she was like in the hospital. She was in the hospital for almost 9 months. 6 months of that was rehab.
Yeah,
but in case anybody else that happens to, like my point was being like, no matter how fast you want to get to your destination or how fast you want to become popular or famous or whatever, you have to slow down. If you don't have health, you have nothing. Yeah. I mean, like, so for me, it's like this is what's going to happen to you if you don't slow down, and if you get people to just get under your skin.
Yeah.
So, and that I wanted to put it, at first I didn't want to. It's like, who wants to put their face out like that? But you know what? It's normal. It's normal shit. It's shit that it really happens to people.
Yeah.
So why not put it out there? So that way, and the response was incredible. People were like DMing me. I had like, every day there was multiple like deliveries, balloons, flowers, edibles.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, like not edibles like edibles, but like
like literally like yummy little like little morsels of yumminess. Yes.
I mean, it was just beautiful. I mean, so DMs, phone calls, texts.
Isn't that insane too?
I mean, really like, thank you so much. So I'm actually going through this, and so one of my friends, Chris Bashir's, his wife used to own Flock 5. So he had, I don't know if it was him or he had a friend who had Bell's palsy, and so he's the one that he told me, how long has it been? I go, it's been 2 days.
Yeah.
Get to an acupuncturist. I was like, what? Get to an acupuncturist, and I think I got somebody that can set you up. So he did some. His acupuncturist couldn't get me in for like a week.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's okay. And then so I knew Amy Dreyer, Steps of Style, who from her feed, she goes to an acupuncturist. So I remembered her. So I texted her. I was like, hey, do you have an acupuncturist that you would recommend? Because she knew what was going on. And she goes, yes, absolutely. Go to Dr. Abby. And I was like, sure. And like at the time she was at Crossroads Chiropractic and Wellness.
Yeah.
So she, I called and they said, oh, we can't get you in for another 3-4 days. And so I was like, all right. So I got one that's 3-4 days. I got another that's a week. So I'll just wait. And actually, then Chris texts me. He goes, hey, so he can get you in like in 3 days too. It's like, okay, perfect. So I had already said yes. And then all of a sudden, Amy, she goes, you're in for tomorrow. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, so Dr. Abby's, she's going to squeeze me in, just go in tomorrow. I was like, oh, but I already have. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I already have this other appointment with Chris, who originally was helping me. But I ended up going to Abby anyways, Dr. Abby, and told her what was going on. And I think within the third sessions when I could already start feeling a difference.
So talk to me a little bit about what you've learned about acupuncture and what the effects.
I used to think acupuncture was like just BS.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, come on, who's going to needles in your body? Like that's really going to, but I started noticing the difference. Like there was times like when I'd go in and then on the third sessions when I started feeling tingling sensation of the face, I honestly couldn't feel the needles going into my face. I could feel some on my right because she had to keep the balance.
Mm-hmm.
So she explained to me a little bit more. I'm not an acupuncturist, so I don't know
like the was it meridian lines?
Yes, I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
So, what was your question? Sorry.
Well, I was asking about what you've learned, like in terms of, because again, my father's going. He's now going at least 2 to 3 times a week. So, can you speak a little bit to what it actually does to your body?
So I researched it too because I was like, I'm going to this person, and it's not it's also something that, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
So, and then I researched, and I mean, this has been going on for thousands of years. I mean, so if it's going, and it's still popular nowadays, there's something to it. So when she would put what's so funny is like when I was laying there with all the needles in my face, I could feel the vibrations of the needles. Like I'd even open my eyes and I could see them like just like, I mean, I'd be like dead still, like, okay, I'm not going to move. And just sit there, just lay there, and they'd vibrate. And so that's energy. So that is the, because I told Dr. Abby, it was kind of weird, especially the one on the eyes just was really like, zzz. She goes, that's great because that's your nerves who are just really, they're waking up.
That's so
from
cool.
So that's helping.
It's almost triggering the synapses of like to bring it back to
bring it back to normal.
Yeah.
And I think within, and usually for people who don't do, for Bell's palsy usually lasts 3 to 6 months. Wow. I still have a little like, I can feel it, but people can't see it.
Yeah.
I can feel like a little tightness. So like, especially if I smile, I feel like this eye is smaller than the left.
Yeah.
But people can't see anything.
It's uncanny how quickly I feel like you
I really did, because there's people, I would get DMs from people who have had Bell's palsy like 3-4 months longer than I have.
Yeah.
And don't see the results that I see in me. Because I would post once a week.
Yeah.
Every Sunday I'd post something on the recovery. And they would say, I don't have that kind of, recovery. And I'm so, I'm impatient. I was like, well, and supposedly I had heard, because of Chris Bashir's, he said you should, once you get Bell's palsy, it's so important to get to the acupuncturist within days.
Yeah.
Once it's been 2-3 weeks, it's a little harder recovery.
Sure.
So, which makes sense.
It totally does.
So that's my only recommendation to people. If you do get Bell's palsy, just hit up your acupuncturist.
What do you think? Abby. Do you think now that you've gone?
Now I use it for I still go, but I go like for knee issues. Like I'm a runner, so I've been having issues with my right knee, and she works on it. It's, it's not the first, so cool. But the second or third session, like, wow. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's real.
Incredible. Has anything sparked up in you, like going through something like that through COVID? Then, obviously the social upheaval. I mean, we've had so much with George Floyd. This has been an intense time for you. Like, it's been an intense time. Has there been anything that has like rattled your cage? Do you feel like a calling to do more? Are there things you're curious about now?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, even having this, and I hate to use the word platform because I do not consider myself whatever, local celebrity, whatever, but I have realized that I do influence somehow.
You do.
And for me, as being Mexican, being Latino, when I first moved here to Kansas City, I felt so, we're in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's a lot of white.
There's a
lot of white here.
It's a lot of white.
And I will say this, the majority of my friends are white here. My partner is white. So I wasn't really, there were times like I would be shopping down the plaza, my partner would take us plaza, and I would feel like I was followed. Yeah. Or Kyle and I would walk into the same place and they would directly like address him. Hey sir, how are you? Can we help you with something? I'm right here. Like nobody would ever kind of like, they just went directly to him.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's because he was older, because he was white, or he just looked like old money or whatever. Yeah. But so I noticed, that was the first time that I noticed a little bit of like not really wanting to fuck with me. They wanted to just talk to Kyle. Versus in Texas, growing up in Amarillo, doing stuff, I mean, it was more Latinos. So I didn't really, even when my nieces and nephews come and visit every summer.
Yeah.
When they come here, they're in awe. They're like, this is everybody's white.
Yeah, it's very
In McAllen, 90% is Mexican or Hispanic.
So crazy.
So they just don't see. I think they were saying. I think there's only one black kid in their school.
Yeah.
And one Asian.
Wow.
And everybody else is Latino.
That's so interesting.
And I think no white kids in their schools. So the one thing that I have noticed is the racism has always been an issue anywhere in the world, I think. But the one thing that really has really, this was pre-COVID, that struck my nerve during COVID as I was on just Googling stuff as a Latino, especially with the families belong together.
Yeah.
The kids who are in detention camps because their parents were shipped back to Mexico. And for me, being Latino and also being active with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and a board member at the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, I want to use whatever it is I can. And I have a lot of stuff in the back, in the burners that I don't talk about, and trying to help other minorities any way I can, as far as especially getting these kids. Unfortunately, statistically, those kids will never see their parents again. I mean, some of these kids are dying just from the way they're living, and so I want to bring awareness to that. I
think you'd be a great spokesperson for it. Have you watched Undocumented on Netflix?
No.
I think you should take a look at it. I think there's actually a Latino man that they followed in Kansas City.
Oh, really?
And my heart it really opened up my eyes to our present situation in Kansas City. And it's one of those beautiful documentaries that helps educate you, but doesn't talk down to you.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot out there right now.
It's about delivery. It
really is. But I believe more than anything that now is the time, and seeing just what's happened to you in the past 2 years that we've been in each other's kind of radars. Mm-hmm. You have, your voice has changed even on your platform of social media in a way to me where I'm like, now I'm really curious to see not just what restaurants you go to,
where I'll take it,
and where but now, like, what do you stand for?
Yeah,
because
that was one of the things. Cool. Because I don't want to be just another person who just talks about food and fashion and interior design all the time. I think those are great stepping stones to something greater. Yeah. I don't want to just, that's not what I want to do the rest of my life. I do want to make, as we all do, we all have that want to do something to make an impact in life, in somebody's life. Yeah. On a bigger scale. I think if you don't have that kind of thirst or hunger, then you're kind of dead inside, I think.
Totally.
So we all want to accomplish something. And I think we all have big hearts. We all want to get somewhere to better ourselves. But I think deep down, we all want to help other people. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. I mean, there's people out there that don't. They're all about them. And that's on them. That's on them. Yeah. Hey, if that works for you, great. But that's never who I've been and never will be. So there's certain things. There's a lot of things I can't really I keep to myself that I want to accomplish. But but that's one thing for sure, is to deal with all the injustices, racial injustices. That is something that I've always wanted to really work on.
Well, in your journey with that, look me up, because that is something that I don't know. It's really interesting for me. My cage got rattled over the last couple months in so many ways, and to me, more people that connect with each other, your support coming out to my event for the podcast was like, it just, what it is you just see people who are in a transitional place of wanting better for their community.
Of course.
And you're definitely one of those people that when, allyship's being thrown around a ton and no one wants to call themselves an ally. But when you look at someone that you want to partner with to help make your community better, you're definitely one of them. And that's why I invited you on the podcast. Thank
you. And again, it's a pleasure and it's an honor, seriously, Seraphine. The one thing to touch base on the BLM as well right now, like I volunteered at the mural at 63rd and Brookside.
Yeah.
So I was posting things. I did the video, and then I've shared some of the murals. So I'd get these DMs, which were so fucking annoying. I was like, don't you think all lives matter? I was like, oh my gosh, guys, like, I'm fucking Mexican. Do you not see this? Like, of course, of course all lives matter, but you're missing the fucking point.
Exactly.
Like, get on the program. Like, it's not about all lives matter. This is about, it's just like, I don't understand these. I don't know whether it's because I'm Latino and I as a minority, if because I get it. If it's these people, and it's usually, and it was, what's funny, it's usually the white women who are messaging me. It's like, but don't you believe all lives matter? I was like, yes, you and your pink filtered page obviously are not with the program.
No, and
stop posting your sessions, your try-on sessions at J. Crew.
Exactly.
And grab a fucking book or go online and just read.
Yeah. Exactly.
Get educated on it. It's just
and
so
understand
frustrating.
what it actually means and where it stems from, because I think that's the other thing that I'm learning more.
Sorry, and I didn't want to bring up anything political like this.
But but at the end of the day, people need to educate themselves, and people need to start to get out of their comfort zone. And the more and more I do these podcasts, all I can say is that it's actually pretty cool to get out of your comfort zone, because it evolves you and changes you. You start to listen more to another person's stance, and you may not agree with them, but at least you're listening and you're not trying to jump in to plug whatever idea that you have, but you're being present and you're in the moment. And to me, with your platform, I can't wait to see what you bring to it in the next year. And I'm so glad that you came today. I'm so glad you came today.
So this has been, and I apologize if I've taken Joanna for taking forever to respond. Hey, anybody out there, I know you're listening to this. If you want to partner with me on something, please be patient with me.
Yeah.
I probably the worst thing for me is time management. I am the worst at time management. Joanna knows.
Yeah.
He takes forever to respond.
But at the end of the day,
I always come through.
Yes,
I do. I always at some point, and it's just something that I have to deal with, and I've always been that way.
Yeah.
There was something else we were talking about.
So I was.
Oh, how are we?
We're starting to wrap things up just a little bit, because our cameras start to run out of juice. So I guess where I'd like to kind of put a bow on it, or put a feather in the cap, is
on the hat.
People can follow you at One Dapper Latino Instagram. Yes. And then in terms of your interior design, how can people contact you?
Just reach out to on my website, onedapperlatino.com. That is numerical one, dapperlatino.com. Actually, if you type in ONE, it'll also direct you there, because I bought that. So
I love it.
Just
I love
makes sense.
It. Exactly.
Hey, that's part of my web designer's idea too.
Yep.
Again, I had no idea about
you got to get your
stuff.
bases covered.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And
any upcoming things that you're involved in that you want to plug?
So I have my just interior design part. Not really, not right now. I still have my partnerships with some local businesses here, with Tibble Halls. Hopefully soon, also Country Club Plaza. And still the negotiations.
That's all exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
I love it.
Again, it just kind of, and I love that these businesses are reaching out to me, as a Latino, because there's so many other influencers here in Kansas City. They're mainly female, but they're all, bubblegum, unicorn, pink.
Exactly. It's a certain demographic.
It works for them. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But I'm luckily enough to have been able to corner that niche for me.
Yeah.
As a gay Latino, and that's just something that I'm proud of course.
Yeah.
And it is, and it's all about. I do believe in just treating people and being kind and humble.
Yeah.
That might sound cliche, but that works.
No, it does.
Really is. It's the best thing that you can to help better yourself and other people.
100%, and being true to you. And that's one thing that, as we sign off, my last thought is always to support those who are being as authentic as possible, but celebrating going outside of the box and trying something new. And the thing that I love about your page, it is about, hey, have you tried this place?
Yeah.
Or, hey, have you maybe you're going to just switch this to this in your room and bring out a little bit of light.
Yeah.
I just love that you give different perspectives on things. And
it's about community. It really is.
It really is.
Genuinely 100% for me. It is community. When people say out there, it's like, oh, this community has been so good to me. It's like, oh God, like it's just some of those people aren't really truthful.
Yeah.
For me, from my heart, it really is community.
And you can
especially this nowadays, people need all the help we can get. Everybody, even I do. We all have to. So.
Well, I completely, from the bottom of my heart, I am so glad that you're sitting in this chair across from me. This has been such a great conversation. And please, please, please take a look. Follow the Dapper Latino if you already, one Dapper Latino if you haven't already. And I promise you, you will never, ever wonder what to eat or what to hang on your walls or where to buy something. He's going to let you know what's in Kansas City. And if you like this podcast, please, please like and subscribe to the Seraphine podcast. Really enjoyed this conversation with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seraphine.
All
Thank
right.
you, Erin.
Thank you,
Joanna. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
And keep it dapper.
Yes, keep it dapper.